in every session that we are reading just to please beloved Baba, because he did say that he would be happy if each one of us, Baba lovers, read God Speaks at least once in our lifetime. We were reading part 7, the sevenfold veil, which is on page 67. Let me caution you beforehand that this sevenfold veil is the inner journey that the soul takes when it is embarking upon the involutionary path, which means on the subtle plane. To a certain extent, it is ununderstandable. So we'll have to go with whatever Baba is saying, because he is explaining the aspects of the subtle world in gross terms so that we understand what could be happening to the subtle world aspirant. So when we were reading this sevenfold veil, we came across supplement 11 and 12. And supplement 11 and 12, we did a part of supplement 11, which is on page 214. Supplement 11, page 214. Sorry?
213.
Sorry?
11 is in 208 onwards.
Sorry?
Supplement 11 is in 208.
Yeah. Acha. Okay, supplement 11 is from page 208 onwards, but right now we stopped in between and we are now reading, 215, not 214. Okay, go ahead. Last paragraph of supplement number 11.
In spite of the mass appeal of miracles and the claims of spiritual masters, the East, like the West, is also very circumspect in its attitude towards them. It may be said to its credit, however, that the East has learned by long experience not to deny the actions of the spiritual hierarchy, even if it cannot see its way to accept or believe in them. One of the earliest Sufis has declared, quote, miracles are only one of the 1,000 stages on the way to God, unquote. And the avatar of this cycle, Meher Baba, affirms that the greatest miracle a perfect master can perform is to make another man spiritually perfect like himself.
All right, we had done this. This comes under the subtitle of different types of miracles. And we had done that in a sense, nothing is a miracle because everything happens according to the law. There are various different laws operating on various levels of consciousness. There are people on higher levels of consciousness. When they operate on that law, we who do not have access to those laws, for us, it's a miracle. So in a sense, Baba says there's nothing like miracle. Somebody who operates, and the example that I had given earlier was, let's say if I take my cell phone and go into a remote village or a jungle where nobody has seen what a cell phone is, and if I'm able to talk or do a so-called a video calling with somebody thousands of miles away, for that person it's a miracle. But actually it is operating on a certain law. We are not aware of that law, and so we call it a miracle. On the other sense, everything is a miracle. I am speaking, how am I speaking, I do not know. You are listening, you are perceiving things. Two different people sitting side by side, perceiving differently, subjectively. So in that sense, everything is a miracle. The most important thing we need to remember is, Baba often said, except for the experience of the I am God state, the Aham Brahmasmi state, all other experiences are in the domain of illusion, and they should not be given any importance, because we get caught up, we get in awe of somebody creating a miracle. So Baba says that except for that one experience, everything is in the domain of illusion, and if we remain unaffected and untouched by that, then it's good for all of us. So I'll just read the last paragraph. In spite of the mass appeal of miracles and the claims of spiritual masters, The East, like the West, is also very circumspect. That means very wary, very careful, very cautious in its attitude towards them. It may be said to its credit, however, that the East has learned by long experience not to deny the actions of the spiritual hierarchy, even if it cannot see its way to accept or believe in them. That means there are people right from plane 1 onwards that people can do miracles. Baba has said a person on plane 4, the fourth planer, he's a Kuber, he's a Mahayogi, he has all the powers in his hands. He can create new life, he can create new universes, he can bring back a dead man alive. And yet, it has no meaning, it has no importance in terms of spirituality. In fact, it could do him a lot of harm if he misuses those powers. One of the earliest Sufis has declared, quote, miracles are only one of the 1,000 stages on the way to God. And the avatar of this cycle, Meher Baba, affirms that the greatest miracle a perfect master can perform is to make another man spiritually perfect like him. So that is the miracle which makes any sense. Otherwise, all these miracles are just like, Madari. I remember somebody came to Baba and said, you have to prove to me that you are the avatar by creating some miracle. And Baba said, I am not a Madari. You know what Madari is? Yeah, okay. So now we are we reading 12? Yeah. Now we are reading supplement 12, Kinds of Powers, page number 215.
Spirituality and spiritualism are two different things. Spirituality has nothing to do with any kind of power in any form. Spirituality is the path of love for God and obedience and surrender to the perfect master. As one travels the path, one comes across powers on the planes of consciousness. Those on the planes from first to fourth are sometimes tempted to demonstrate these powers. There are three kinds of powers. 1. The divine powers of the fourth plane. 2. The occult powers of the first three planes of consciousness. These are called the mystic powers. Number 3. Other occult powers.
All right, I'll just read it. Many people use the word spiritualism. Spiritualism has nothing to do with spirituality. Spirituality, pure and simple, means love for God and obedience and surrender to a perfect master. Spiritualism is all, manipulating laws into occult and other types of, so-called chamatkar, riddhi siddhi, that is spiritualism. Spirituality has nothing to do with any kind of power in any form. Spirituality is the path of love for God and obedience and surrender to the perfect master. That is pure and simple spirituality. As one travels the path, one comes across powers on the planes of consciousness. We have done planes of consciousness. There are 6 planes in the domain of duality or illusion. The 7th is the reality. Those on the planes from the first to the fourth in the subtle world are planes of powers. Planes, that is why it's a subtle world. It has energy, it has urja, it has powers. And the fun of it is when you so-called graduate from the 4th to the 5th, all your powers are gone. You don't have any powers. You enter into the mental world, manobhumika, and there you have no powers. As one travels, orchestrate these powers. So just as we have temptation here in the gross world, a lot of it, Baba says there are manifold more temptations in the subtle world. Now there are these 3 types of powers. The divine powers of the 4th plane. 4th plane is also called the dark night of the soul. It is the threshold between the subtle and the mental. It is a point where you have tremendous powers. You can do anything, virtually anything, but you have no control over the mind, because to have control over the mind, you should be in the mental world. Right now, you are still in the world of energy. So that is a spot where it is very dangerous, and if somebody misuses the powers, he can go back to the stone state. The occult powers of the first three planes of consciousness, these are called mystic powers and other occult powers. So these are the three categories which have been given.
1. The divine powers of the fourth plane are the almighty powers of God. They are the source of all powers, whether mystic or other occult powers. The mystic and other occult powers are infinitely insignificant in comparison with the divine powers. The divine powers remain always the same because God is always one and the same. The occult powers, whether they are of the planes or not, are different in kind and vary in expression. The miracles performed through the manifestation of divine powers by the avatar and the kutub are called mojizat. These are performed for the good of all on a limited scale by the kutub and on a universal scale by the avatar. However, these can be performed for any individual in close association with the avatar or the kutub.
So here Baba says that the kutub or the avatar, they also create miracles. That is called mojizat, and they are always for the good of others. The kutub, as we know, or the Sadguru, as we know, the avatar, they are beyond all laws. They are in the realm of the seventh plane, which is perfection, which is reality, which is truth. They are not bound by anything, and they are always performed for the good of others. And here Baba says that they can also be performed for any individual who is closely associated or connected with the avatar or the kutub.
The miracles performed indirectly by those on the fifth and sixth planes with the help of the divine powers are called karamat.
Karamat. Now here we must understand that the person on the fifth and the sixth plane are in the manobhuvan, are in the mental world. They have no powers. The person on the fifth plane is called a wali, and the person on the sixth plane is called the peer. They have no powers. The wali controls the thoughts of all the subtle and the gross conscious human beings. The peer controls the feelings of all the human beings, all the creation, I would say, of subtle and the gross. The one on the sixth plane is also called Mahapurush, and the one on the fifth plane is also called Satpurush. That is the reason why Baba uses the word. Actually, these are not Baba's words, I keep repeating, these are supplements, but Baba has gone through it. The word used is indirect. The miracles performed indirectly. They do not perform any direct miracle because they are not in the domain of energy, but they can manipulate thoughts and feelings. They can control thoughts and feelings. They can infuse thoughts and feelings to a fourth planar, third planar, second, and in a sense, impel them to create a miracle. So the miracles created by a person on the fifth and the sixth plane are mostly indirect and not direct.
The display of the mystic powers by those on the first up through the third plane cannot, in fact, be termed miracles. Such a display is nothing but a show of powers that they come across while traversing the planes. Such a display of powers is called Shobda.
Shobhada.
Shobhada.
Now, for example, if the well is dry, they can just say a certain mumbo jumbo. They can just think, and it will be full of water. Or if a tree is full of leaves, they can just think, and it can become dry. They can stop the train if they want to stop the train. Means they can do all these chota-mota chamatkar, and therefore Baba says that in a sense, they are not called miracles. The word used over here is Shobhada. Juggling, okay.
When the one on the fourth plane makes good use of the divine powers and performs a miracle, it can be termed as Karamat-e Mojeza, When he makes a bad use of them, that is, misuses the divine powers of the fourth plane, it is termed mojiza e shobada.
Now, these are the powers used by the person on the fourth plane. And when Baba talks about good use of powers in this particular plane, it means powers used for spiritual benefit of somebody. If it is used for material benefit, somebody, बच्चा कच्चा नहीं होता है, I want नौकरी छोकरी टोकरी, all that, So that, if you use it for that and the person bears a child or, passes an examination or gets a marrying partner or anything material, it is definitely a bad use of powers. So only when it is used for spiritual upliftment, spiritual push, it is considered as a good use of powers.
The fourth plane is regarded as the threshold of the mental sphere, and so the misuse of the divine powers on the fourth plane results in a fall as far back as the stone state and results in disintegration of consciousness.
This one, I don't think it requires any explanation. We have done that he is on the threshold, and if he makes bad use of it, the consciousness of that particular Kuber shatters, disintegrates, and it goes back to the stone state.
2. The occult powers of the first three planes, called the mystic powers, cannot be misused by the aspirant on these planes, though they sometimes are tempted to display them. These
means even when a person on the first, second, third plane uses his powers, it is like a grace. Baba says it cannot be misused. They are just the Shobada, and so it is okay, it is allowed. It has no meaning, it has no relevance to spirituality.
These mystic powers are different and vary in expression, such as reading the minds of others, reciting words or passages from a book without seeing it, allowing themselves to be burned alive buried alive for hours together, etc.
These are all show of powers, Yeah.
The powers.
1 minute. Farzin has a question. Do we have a mic, extra mic? Why? Because for those online, they may not be able to hear. You want to come in? Because that was the feedback that I got, that we don't know what the questioner is asking. Okay, I'll repeat your question. No, go ahead. Yes.
Materializing.
It could be Nanga, it could be clothed also. Not necessarily all Nanga powers are. 1 minute. So, yeah. Well, they could be, or they may be using some tantric powers, or they may have mastered certain tricks. Now you see a magician on the stage. He's not on a plane. He's just using certain apparatus, and he has got that what we call sleight of hands. So he's able to make us feel that there's a miracle, but actually there's not. Yeah, Kama. I also did not understand, but I just answered. The question that Farzin was asking is, sometimes we go to Kumbh Mela and we see all Nanga Baba. So I said they may sometimes wear clothes also. It doesn't mean that Nanga means they have got powers. And they do this chota mota, they bring something out of nowhere, or they do some kinds of trick. Are they on the planes? That was the question. Now, I am not qualified to know who is on the plane, who is not. They may be on the plane, they may not be on the plane. They may have done some tantric exercises and got some powers. But Baba has said that when a yogi or a tantric, they have these powers, they have only one of the aspects under their control. Let us say, for example, somebody who has got control over water, that one element. He can walk on water, but he cannot fly. But there are some people who can levitate. That means they have control over the law of gravity. So they can only have one aspect in their own control, not all. But those who are actually on the plane, especially on the fourth plane, he can do anything. He can do anything. Okay.
The powers of the planes are not induced. These powers
Not induced, caused by induction. Okay. These powers.
These powers are ever accessible to those on the planes within their own limited environment, and as such need no concentrated effort to display them.
They don't need any concentrated effort to display. Just like how on the gross plane I am able to walk so comfortably because I am using a certain law. I am able to jump, I am able, So in the same way for those on the planes, they are not induced. They don't need anything to be done because they are operating on that law, which we are not aware of.
This display of powers should not be confused with the demonstrations of mind readers and of others who put on stage performances.
So people who do stage performances and all that, they have mastered certain art. That's all. All right.
The one on the third plane of consciousness can raise dead subhuman creatures, but can never make a dead human being alive. This he can do because of the nearness to and warmth of the divine powers of the fourth plane.
Just now we did that a person on the fourth plane can bring back a dead man who's dead, he can bring him back alive. But a person who is on the third plane is very close to the fourth plane and he gets the warmth of the power of the fourth plane. So he can bring back subhuman species alive, a dog, cat, donkey, horse, whatever. He can bring it back to life, but not a human being. For that you have to be on the fourth plane.
I like the word
Warmth. Baba uses here the word warmth. Somewhere he uses the word hawa. Many people had asked Baba, so and so, he speaks so beautifully. Is he on the plane or which plane? So Baba would say, unko to abhi hawa bhi nahi lagi hai. Means he has not even got the breeze of the spirituality. Yeah.
But one on the fourth plane can raise the dead, including human beings, by the use of the divine powers of the fourth plane. The one on the third plane can change his physical form at will, and one who does this is known as an Abdal. This act is also a display of the mystic powers, but not the misuse of powers. However, this act should not be confused with the dematerialization or materialization of the human forms by the Tantrics.
Now these Baba talks about certain powers. Here Baba says that there is a person who can change his physical form, and they are Abdals. Abdals are a kind of agents, where they can help people, they can appear anywhere at any time. I think I remember when Baba was traveling in a desert and he was thirsty, he was about to die. Baba's father, my mistake. Baba's father, Sheriyarji, two angels, Baba said they were Abdals. They came with, what is it called? Khas, what is it called? No, there's a certain name. Khalas, whatever. Of leather bag of water and gave him water. So those on these planes can work as Abdals, in other words, like something like an angel, and they can help other people. That is not considered as a misuse of power. Here again Baba says it should not be confused with dematerialization or materialization of the human forms in the Tantric. That means dematerialization, disappearance. They become invisible. I remember one WhatsApp joke, where one Tantric comes and says, he said, how they do, and he sees a certain man and says, Kabutar ban jao. So immediately he becomes a pigeon and he moves around along with pigeons, and the wife of the husband is there, the child is also there. Just then somebody makes a loud banduk ka awaz, thang, and the kabutar flies away along with them. So now they don't know which is their father and which is. So it was just a joke. What I'm trying to say, dematerialization, materialization and changing of forms. Okay.
3. Other occult powers have nothing to do with spirituality or with the mystic powers of the planes. These occult powers are of two types: A. Superior occult powers, B. Inferior occult powers.
Occult, you can say secret powers, hidden powers from general knowledge, supernatural. Those are called occult powers. But Baba had said that just because somebody can use occult powers or they are in the know of these things does not mean a thing in terms of spirituality. Baba has been very clear about it. There are many people who do, let's say, auto writing or that Ouija board, Ouija, what is it called? Ouija, I don't know, whatever. So they may use all these powers, but then Baba says that has nothing to do with pure and simple spirituality.
The one who has these occult powers can make good or bad use of the same. Good use of occult powers helps one to put himself on the planes of the path and may even make one a Mahayogi.
Now, good use again, I would personally feel for spiritual upliftment of somebody.
Bad use of these occult powers makes one suffer intensely in the next human form.
Now, the bad use of occult powers could mean, I don't know, because energy is energy. You can, what we call as black magic and all that, you know. So if somebody uses it in a bad way to harm somebody, you know, then at one place I had read that the person who is doing this to the other is taking upon himself or herself samskaras of the person who is affected to the tune of almost 3 lifetimes. That was the word used. That is, so much of samskaras come to you. So never indulge in the so-called bad use of these powers.
Good use of superior occult powers puts one on the 5th plane of consciousness after 4 lives, reincarnations.
You want to use?
A. Superior types of occult powers are derived from tantric exercises such as chillanashini or repetition of certain mantras, etc.
So now chillanashini, see, it's very easy to say. I don't know how people must be doing it. Baba's father tried it. And what is it? You draw a circle and you remain within that circle without eating, without drinking, without coming out of that circle and without sleeping for 40 days and nights. And if you are able to do that, then you ask for anything, you'll get it. So Baba's father Sheriaji tried it for 30 days and then he, in a sense, could not stay any longer, so he had to come out. And then we are not going into that story of how he heard a voice and all that. That not new, but it is through your son you will get what you are asking for. So basically that is chillanashini or repetition of certain mantras. Mantras are the words, or who can say syllables arranged in such a manner that it creates a certain power. Intonation creates a certain power. So when you keep on repeating those mantras over a period of time, you can get certain powers.
The one who holds these powers can perform the so-called miracles such as levitation, flying and floating in the air, dematerialization and materialization,
so
etc.
all these things you can do. You can levitate, you can fly, you can float in the air. I think we just did an example of a perfect master waiting at the bank of a river, waiting for the boat to come and ferry him across on the other side. Just then somebody who had mastered one of these powers, you know, he comes along and walks on the water, walks on the river water, and comes.
67.
Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah. And what page?
67.
Page 67 it is there. And comes back and looks, in a sense, sarcastically to the master and says, wasn't it, you know, it's fun, it's so easy. Wasn't that easy? And the master replied, yes, very easy. And it has the value of 1 anna.
Less than
1 anna. Because that 1 anna was the boat fare to go. So why do I use a power instead of just spending 1 hour to go over there. So many people who are on the path, they feel the temptation of showing off their powers. So if any of you get into the powers, please don't show off such powers.
B. Inferior powers of occult,
Inferior
types of occult powers need no tantric or any special exercises. They are had through sanskaras of past lives. For example, if someone has done certain good deeds many times in the past, his next incarnation may give him the faculty of inferior occult powers without undergoing any strenuous exercises.
So because of the deed done in the past, you get endowed with certain powers which are known as the lower occult powers.
His sanskaras give him the faculty of inferior occult powers such as clairvoyance, clairaudience, healing, producing sweets or money seemingly out of nothing, etc.
So these are known as inferior occult powers. What is it? Clairvoyance. Clairvoyance means you can see the spirits moving around. We had known some people and they can communicate. Clairaudience is somebody who can hear the spirits, Healing. So healing comes over here as inferior occult power, which is automatic. They get it automatic.
Because of good lifetime, leading good life.
In the past. Producing sweets. Why sweets? I don't know. Or money. Seemingly out of nothing. You just do like this and get something out.
All such capabilities form part of the lower or inferior type of occult powers.
And when we see this, we say, oh my God, what a person, he's got such powers. And we attribute a high spiritual place to such a power, such a person, but it is only lower occult power.
If one makes good use of the inferior type of occult powers, he derives superior type of occult powers in his next life without undergoing any tantric exercises. Likewise, the one who puts to good use his faculty of hypnotism gains the superior type of occult powers in his next life.
Hypnotism is an act of inducing hypnosis, which is heightened suggestibility. In other words, you make the person relax, put his conscious mind on the pillow, so to speak, and speak to the subconscious mind, affirmations, good thoughts, and help the person to come over whatever shortcomings that may be. So here ends supplement number 12, and we are going back to page number 58. 68. Yeah, please. Yeah, you'll get a mic. Questions only from what we have done so far.
Yeah. We were talking about...
Because he knows the subject perhaps better than me.
No.
So he...
No, this is just to clarify something.
Please.
Here we talked about superior types of occult powers are derived from tantric exercises, such as chilla nashini or repetition of certain mantras.
Right.
Then it says the one who holds these powers can perform the so-called miracles, such as levitation, flying and floating in the air, etc.
Right.
Now previously on the description of mystic powers, it says the display of the mystic powers by those on the first up through the third plane cannot in fact be termed miracles. Such a display is nothing but a show of powers that they come across while traversing the planes. Such a display of powers is called Shubhada. So my question is, and then it says when the one on the fourth plane makes good use of the divine powers and performs a miracle. So what I understand here is between first and third plane it's called mystic powers, it's not called miracles. And then when you do something in the fourth, fifth or sixth plane, it can be considered a miracle. But then later when we talk about superior or inferior occult powers, they are also called so-called miracles.
So-called miracles you can say, but they are not purely miracles.
Okay.
They are not purely. Like that, similarly on page 47 and 48, you will find a little... initially I thought there was a little ambiguity, in understanding that even good use of powers binds, is what Baba says.
Right.
And then there's one word where that desire, that means if I have a desire to do something, then there is an I involved, so that binds, something like that. So we won't go to that again. What I'm trying, yes, I agree with you. From first to third, they are not called miracles, they are just
Mystic
Display.
powers.
mystic powers.
Display of
yeah,
power.
display of-
It's just I'm just talking about the ambiguity of the English language.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
call it so-called miracles,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then it
yeah,
becomes
yeah,
a miracle between after the fourth plane onwards, and then mystic
Agreed.
powers.
Absolutely.
Just to understand the definition.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, Baba, thank you.
Thank you. Page number
868.
68.
The ability to exercise you got it?
Yeah, go ahead.
The ability to exercise constant control over one's low desires is no mean achievement. Success in establishing a lasting sublimation of all desires is indeed a greater one. But the greatest is the burning away of all one's desires once and for all, which divine love alone can do. As there is never any show about divine love, this burning in love is always without smoke, that is, without show. There are times when an outward expression of God love may amount to heroism, but to make at any time a mere show of one's love for God for the sake of show amounts to an insult to God. That is why Kabir says that in the act of meditation, when one assumes an asana posture to meditate upon God, one should at that time learn to avoid making any display such as the swaying motion of one's body, even if it is only for one's own gratification. Then we have
Now, we'll come to supplement 13 and 14, but before that, let me read this again. The ability to exercise constant control over one's low desires is no mean achievement. Baba has emphatically said, apart from the other plane desires on the planes and all, desire for desirelessness, hope to rise above all hopes, want nothing, and you will have everything. So the point is, what are desires? I want something. Not a need. We are not talking about need. What does it do? When I desire something very strongly, I am creating an impression. I am creating an energy which is lodged in my mental body, in my mind. Now, the law of samskaras or the law of desires state that every desire finds fulfillment. When? That will depend upon the time. So desires basically becomes like hooks or like building blocks of our continuing to reincarnate over and over again, because now I have created an impression. An impression will never go away unless there is an expression of that impression. And while I am experiencing the expression of that impression, and if I perform from the platform of I am experiencing, it creates fresh impressions. So there's a vicious circle and it goes on and on and on. So what Baba has been advocating is keep your desires low. Needs, Baba doesn't talk about needs, Baba talks about desires. So it's not a mean achievement to have control over your desires all the time. Success in establishing a lasting sublimation of all desires is indeed a great one. To sublimate a desire means to use that energy of desires into some constructive channel. Baba has never asked us to fight desires, but to make certain pathway in such a way, a mental pathway of course, that those means, in other words, let's say for example, if I have a desire of anything, in that book, what's his name? Effort and Grace. Very beautifully he has written, Darwin Shaw, very beautifully written, that before the desires overtake us to take any physical gross action, which will be binding to us, you follow the desire in your mind as to where it will take you, final, any desire. And then make up your mind whether you would like to reach there. And if it is not, then just drop the I don't know whether I'm making sense. Just drop the desire. So it's very important to exhaust the energy trapped up in a desire at the mental level so that it does not compel us to take physical gross action upon those desires. So that is one of the ways which is, I think, a very brilliant way of dissipating or of neutralizing the energy which is caught up in a desire. So here Baba says, but the greatest is to burning away of all one's desires once and for all, which divine love alone can do. We may follow any path. Let's say Gyan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. Irrespective of whatever yogas that we are doing, if we are doing it honestly and sincerely, it will bind us. It will bind us with good karmas, which again you have to come to utilize the facility of a good life. But when it comes to real love, what is love? Love is that which gives and does not expect anything in return. Disinterested love is the highest type of love. Disinterested means I have no personal gain in loving somebody or something. I am so utterly disinterested in getting any feedback out of my love. Even Baba says a mother's love for a child is not real or pure love because there is some expectation. So here what Baba is trying to say is that in order to completely burn up all the desires, the pathway of love is the only way which can take you there. Because in love, you are not thinking about ourselves. We are only thinking about the goodness and benefit of the other. How will the other be benefited? So here Baba says, as there is never any show about divine love, this burning in love is always without smoke. Smoke means a show. Baba has said elsewhere, to make a show of love, is an insult to the beloved. You see, so when you love, the burning should be inside and no smoke should escape. There was one story, an anecdote story, which I read somewhere. I may sometimes, as Saumya says, mix up a few things, but that's okay. There was once a Raja, a king, a very, very noble king who would be taking care of all his subjects and performing everything that is required of a good, honest king. But the only thing is that he would never go to the temple or never go to the masjid, never join his hands before the image of God or pray to God. No. On the other hand, his wife was very much devoted to God. She has to go to whatever, mandir, masjid, whatever you call it, wherever she is. And a point of disagreement between the two would always be that the wife would tell the husband, okay, why don't you come to the mandir with me or masjid with me, whatever it may be, And the husband would say, Baba, you do your duty, I am doing my duty, why are you interfering what I am doing? I am doing my duty very well, why do you want to, we say, poke your nose in what I am supposed to be doing? And this kept on happening. One day, the Raja gets up in the morning, we all get up in the morning, and he sees a lot of, jubilation. People are, there are lights, there are festoons, there are people celebrating something which the Raja did not know. So the Raja is asking the wife, is it something that I have forgotten? Is there some celebration, some important day, some important date? I don't recollect whatever it is. No, I am very happy today. I am the most happy woman. And Tell me what happened. So you got no idea how happy I am, how But tell me, what happened? The lady, sorry, there are many ladies here. They don't come to the point. They will go about the bush. Tell me what exactly happened. He said, last night, when you were sleeping beside me, and when you turn, what we call as karvat, when you turn from one side to the other, from your mouth, it came, whatever it may be, Ya Allah, Ya Hey Bhagwan, it came, and I was so happy about it that you uttered the name of God. And the Raja is saying, is that so? Oh my God, all these years I have kept my love for God within myself without even uttering it once. And now how come it just escaped? And then as the story goes that the man dies or man... In other words, what the story tells is that those who are real lovers of God don't even utter the name of God. Don't even say that I love you kind of thing. It is all compact in their own heart. So that is where Baba is saying there should be no show of love. And then Kabir gives an example that if you are meditating, then you should not be swaying or you should not be dancing or something like that. That is a show of your love for God. That's it.
Now,
By the way,
supplement.
I don't know whether Faridun name. Aspandyar Irani, have you heard the name? Aspandyar Irani is Pendu Kaka, we call it Pendu. And how Pendu got his name? Because whenever he would sit for prayers, he would be shaking like this, like a pendulum. So Baba gave the name Pendu to him. Okay, that was by the by. All right, go ahead.
Page 218,
Oh,
supplement
we are
13.
supposed to go to page 218. That is supplement number
13.
13.
Meditation.
What is it? Meditation. Okay.
A scheme for beginners based on a study of the divine theme by Meher Baba. Meditation has often been misunderstood as being a mechanical process of forcing the mind upon some idea or object. It is therefore only natural that most people should find great difficulty in their attempts to coerce the mind in a particular direction or to pin it down to one particular thing. Any purely mechanical handling of the mind is not only irksome, but is ultimately bound to be unsuccessful.
Now this is the supplement on meditation. A scheme for beginners, those who want to meditate, based on study of the divine theme by Meher Baba. We'll be coming to divine theme by and by.
Because Kabir used the word act of meditation.
So, just one word that Kabir, Sant Kabir, Das Kabir used, and Baba has given several pages on meditation. Even in discourses, I suppose there are 8 chapters on meditation. But these meditations are totally different from what meditation we hear of in the world. People practicing this has nothing to do with what people practice. And when Don Stevens, who is the editor, was the editor of Discourses edition 6, number 6, and also one of the editors of God Speaks, Don Stevens. When he asked Baba that you have given so many chapters on these are Don's words, you have given so many chapters on meditation, but hardly you have asked any of your disciples, we call them Mandli or Baba lovers, you have not emphasized meditation so much to them at a personal level, except for which I'll come to, which I've already said, but I'll come to that. So Baba said words to the effect, as I understand from Don Stevens, is that I have to provide, these have been given, the words to the effect. During the Autaric period, which is what we are in right now, during the Autaric period, love and direct relatedness to the avatar is the high road of all roads leading towards inner development. It's a high road. And then Don said something which was very sharp, so to speak, and I'm sure he has been honest enough to relate to all of us. He said, Baba says, I have to provide for humanity, for posterity, for people to follow. But meantime, while I am here, that means when Baba was physically there, and a few years thereafter, which we construe as about 100 years after dropping of the avatar's body, it is a waste of time. These are the words which have been relayed by Baba through Dawn to all of us. It's there in record. So it's not that you should not, it's not that you should, it's an individual process. You can do it. I'm sure it will give a lot of benefit. But the way Baba has depicted in the divine theme, because the meditation that we hear about is a certain posture, certain time, focusing on the breathing, focusing on the third eye, focusing on your crown chakra. Nothing of that sort Baba has advocated. It's a totally different way of meditating. So, talking about meditation, I said this in this forum, but I like it, that's why I repeat it. Once in, I suppose it was in Mehrazad Mandli Hall, where Baba, there were a few people, could be Iraj, Bauji, Francis Brabazon, Pendu, Aloba, maybe, I don't know. So Baba says, okay, I want you to sit for about 2 minutes, close your eyes, and bring my image, my image to your third eye, forehead. Just bring my image over here, just for a minute or two. And then immediately after a minute or two, Baba snapped and asked Francis Brabazon. Francis, we all know, is from Australia. He was a Sufi sheikh who gave up his robe and joined Baba as Baba's disciple. He was a poet and he has written some beautiful books. So Baba asked Francis, what did you feel? How did you feel? What did you see? So he said, Baba, you come and go. That's what he said, you come and go. And Baba said, it is you who come and go. I am always there. So in other words, when we feel that Baba is not there, we are not feeling the presence of Baba within us, in and around us. Be sure Baba is always there. We have brought ourselves in, as a veil, as a badha we call it, as a screen. And that is why we are not able to feel Baba's presence. Very beautifully, I am always there. It is you who come and go. Anyway, so, yeah, go ahead.
You finish this?
Okay, I'll read this. Meditation has often been misunderstood as being a mechanical process of forcing the mind upon some idea or object. The moment anything becomes mechanical, it becomes a drudgery, it becomes a burden. You don't feel like doing it. It has to be done, everything has to be done with love. Words to the effect, somebody had said, that if you have a strong why, W-H-Y, the how will follow. I don't know, am I making... If you have a very strong why should I be doing this? If it is very strong, then how should I do it? How will I do it? Automatically it will find its way to get things done. It is therefore only natural that most people should find great difficulty in their attempts to coerce the mind, force the mind in a particular direction or to pin it down to one particular thing. Any purely mechanical handling of the mind is not only irksome but is ultimately bound to be unsuccessful. Many people talk about controlling the mind. Well, they may be good at I never control. I say, make friends with your mind. Talk to your mind. Give reason to your mind why you want to do this or why you don't want to do this, whatever it may be. And when you talk to your mind as a friend, the mind will listen and support you and help you to follow you wherever you want to go. The moment you challenge your mind, the moment you you oppose your mind. When you oppose, what do? You are giving your energy to that particular aspect of your mind. And when you are giving energy to anything, it will grow. Think of a dog. A dog is barking and you oppose, it will bark more, isn't it? But if you do like this, there we have got many dog lovers here. So automatically the dog will become what we call as, diffused, it will all start wagging the tail. So in the same way, one should learn the art of how to handle the mind, not forcefully, not going against it, and many people are successful. I'm not saying no, but it could have a negative repercussion on the other aspects of our physical being and psyche. So rather than that, make friends, talk, invite for a cup of tea or coffee with some biscuits, dip, and then see how the mind becomes your friend.
The first principle, which the aspirant should therefore remember, is that the mind can be controlled and directed in meditation only according to the laws inherent in the makeup of the mind itself, and not by application of any feats of simple willpower.
That means willpower will not work in this. You have to work with the mind according to the laws of the mind. I had told this one story. It has nothing to do with this, what we are doing, but I feel like repeating because there's always a new audience. There was a small baby, crawling baby, who saw something shining in a corner of a room, and the room was flooded with furniture, with heavy cupboards and tables and stuff like that, So, but the child goes and catches hold of that silver coin or whatever that may be. Now the child cannot come out. It is stuck up in there. And the mummy and the sister, they are trying to pull, but when they are trying to pull, there is hardship. The child is crying, weeping, wailing, because they cannot pull out the child. Then towards the evening, after a certain time, the father enters and got to see the child is wailing, crying. And what happened? They said, this is what had happened. He said, don't worry. Now father is supposed to be the perfect master. Baba uses that analogy, and give me one shining object, give me a coin. So father is given a coin, and he does not do anything. He just keeps the coin in such a way that the child can see the coin. When the child sees the coin, again child is maneuvering and coming out without hurting himself. So here what we are seeing is that the avatar, the perfect master, uses one illusion to bring us out of another illusion, that way. But here again, why I joined it is that it is the mind. You have to use the rules and the laws applicable to the mind in order to control the mind. If you want to use the word control, then you can use that way, because the mind can never be, you cannot, like Baba uses the word, not by the application of any feats of simple willpower. Willpower, somebody may be successful, but according to this, it would be much better to talk to the mind, make friends with the mind, let the mind know what you are doing and why you are doing and how it is going to benefit you. You means the mind. Of how in common parlance we say, how the politicians would come for your vote and say, how this will benefit you if you give me the vote. So that way. So you tell the mind how it will benefit the mind. All right.
Many people who do not technically meditate are often found to be deeply and intensely engrossed in systematic and clear thinking about some practical problem or theoretical subject.
So when you are deeply involved into thinking about some practical solution to a practical problem, that itself is meditation. Basically, at the exclusion of other thoughts, you are focusing on one thought. That's a natural kind of meditation. A tiger who is wanting to pounce on a deer, what does it do? It just goes like this, it's meditating actually. You see, he's focused on that. So that is meditation.
In a sense, their mental process is very much like meditation, inasmuch as the mind is engrossed in intense thinking about a particular subject matter to the exclusion of all irrelevant things.
So here I'll repeat this last sentence. The mind is engrossed in intense thinking about a particular subject matter to the exclusion of all irrelevant things. This word irrelevant is very, very, very important. We had done it earlier. The other important aspect, I'm laughing at myself because I keep digressing from what we are reading, is anytime any thought comes. We had done this. Naman had asked this question. Does it serve me? Is it of service to me? When I play with that thought, is it going to make me calm, composed, poised, happy, cool? Today's language they say cool. Does it make me feel that? Or does it agitate me? Does it irritate me? Does it make me feel uncomfortable? Does it whatever? See, very simple. If you really look at it, it's very simple. The moment we feel that no, it is of disservice to me, it is not serving me. When I think on these lines, it is agitating me. Just drop it. Who stops you from dropping? Just drop it. But if it is of service, entertain and go ahead. So here again, why did I say this? I don't know. Irrelevant things.
Irrelevant.
At the exclusion of irrelevant things. There is a lot of irrelevancy that comes in our what we call as internal dialogue. I am sure you must be we all have internal dialogues. We all have what is known as self-talk. We talk a lot with ourselves. And these internal dialogues, control our behavior out in the world. We think that that is the correct thing, that is the truth, that is the reality. But once we discern between relevancy and irrelevancy of our internal dialogue, then automatically we drop those items which are irrelevant. So here Baba is using this word, at the exclusion of all irrelevant things. Things will come. It is irrelevant, don't think about it. Don't entertain it. Move on.
The reason meditation is often easy and spontaneous in such a mental process is that the mind is dwelling upon a subject in which it is interested and which it increasingly understands.
Very important word, interest. In anything that we have interest, we will feel happy, we will feel joyful, we will not tire. Soumya has interest in working. She works from, morning till night. Jaro, pocha, dusting, cooking, stitching, everything. She is interested in that. She doesn't tire. I am not interested in any of these things. I tire very fast. She does not. The moment you create an interest, genuine interest in a subject, then it does not trouble you, it does not bother you, it does not tire you. You are always fresh. Right? Go ahead.
But the spiritual tragedy about ordinary trains of thought is that they are not directed towards things that really matter. The subject matter of meditation must, therefore, always be carefully chosen, and it must be spiritually important.
See, we may be meditating on certain rubbish thoughts. That is meditation. But here, it is an irrelevant thought. It is something which is not going to benefit us. So Baba says the subject matter of meditation must therefore always be carefully chosen, and it must be spiritually important.
In order to attain success in meditation, we must not only get the mind interested in the divine subjects or truths, but we must also begin by trying to understand and appreciate them. Intelligent meditation is a natural process of the mind which avoids the monotonous rigidity and regularity of mechanical meditation.
So in mechanical meditation, there is a monotony. The monotonous, we get tired, rigidity. You must do it at a certain time in a certain. That may help to make a certain discipline. But if there is to make a certain routine, to make a certain discipline. But Baba says here, intelligent meditation is a natural process of the mind which avoids the monotonous rigidity and regularity of mechanical meditation.
It therefore becomes not only spontaneous and inspiring, but easy and successful. Since intelligent meditation consists in thorough thinking about a particular subject, it follows that the best way to meditate would be to make a brief and clear exposition of an appropriate subject. For th-
Exposition would mean describe that subject in details, to lay open, to expose it.
For this purpose, there could be nothing better than the divine theme with its charts, which is reproduced in the following section.
So Baba has given out a divine theme of how creation took place, how after creation there was evolution, how evolution stopped at the first human form, how after the human form is taken, there is no expansion, extension of evolution, there is only reincarnation. How after several reincarnations, your gross samskaras become thin, feeble, weak, rarefied, all that, whatever you call it, and then you enter into the involutionary journey, which is known as the path to realization. And how, after achieving the sixth plane, you are able to see God in everyone and everything, and how, at that point, the living perfect master helps you from the sixth to the seventh. So all that is very beautifully laid out in the divine theme. When we do it, maybe tomorrow, maybe day after, whenever, at that time we'll see how meticulously Baba has drawn it out on a chart.
The process of meditation, which Meher Baba recommends, has 3 stages. 1. In the first stage, the aspirant will read through the divine theme daily, studying the charts also, and thinking about it thoroughly as he does so. 2. In the second stage, when the aspirant has the entire subject at his fingertips, actually reading becomes unnecessary, but the subject matter of the exposition will be mentally reviewed with the help of the charts when necessary. 3. In the third stage, which will develop naturally out of the second, it will be quite unnecessary for the mind to review the words or the thoughts in the exposition separately, and consequently, or even to refer to the facts, and all discursive thinking about the subject matter will come to an end.
Discursive means, again, irrelevant. You are jumping from one subject to another, so that this disturbance will come to an end. Digression, correct.
At this stage of meditation, the mind will no longer be occupied with any trains of thought, but will have a clear understanding of the sublime truths expressed in the exposition.
Exalted, purified. Now these, you may perhaps be knowing that there is a Sufi charter called Sufism Reoriented. They are the copyright owners of this book called God Speaks, and they have been mandated by Baba to practice this kind of meditation. Meditation has, so far as they are concerned, it has become a very integral part of their life and training. Yeah, please.
We were talking about meditation. Here he talks about intelligent meditation and mechanical meditation. So my question is, this intelligent meditation has to do both with material life and spiritual life, or is it only to do with the spiritual life
Baba
and knowing the divine thing?
Baba is very clearly stated over here that the subject matter of meditation must therefore always be carefully chosen, and it must be spiritually important. So if your material meditation is spiritually important, I don't see any harm in doing it. You got my point? Baba says,
But I'm looking in terms of our day-to-day life.
Correct.
Suppose you're running a business,
Correct.
you're doing a startup.
correct.
You have to meditate. You have to use your mind
Absolutely.
intelligently.
Right.
So I think intelligent
I would
meditation
consider-
can apply to both
I would
material life
consider-
and spiritual
I would
life.
consider it as positive, yes. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Divine Theme by Meher Baba. Supplement 14.
We are doing 13
Yeah,
and
13,
14. Okay. So now we are on page 220.
There's a chart on
Supplement chart explanation is there later on, Samya. Explanation is there later on. So we are on page 220, supplement number 14, the divine theme by Meher Baba.
There's an asterisk. Evolution, reincarnation, and the path to realization. Introduction to the charts. A soul becomes perfect. There's an asterisk which Baba says, see chart 9. A soul becomes Z soul.
I think we will do the chart and explanation tomorrow because we have hardly 20 minutes now. So we'll do the entire chart maybe tomorrow. So now we just read through the supplement number 14.
A soul becomes perfect after passing through evolution, reincarnation, and the process of realization. To gain full consciousness, it gets increasing sanskaras in the process of evolution till in the human form it gets full consciousness as well as all the gross sanskaras.
So evolution, when we talk about evolution, Baba says it is the evolution of consciousness. And evolution of consciousness precedes evolution of forms. I have been repeating this. Evolution of forms is a byproduct in the factory of the evolution of consciousness. Baba emphasizes on consciousness. As the consciousness gets more and more evolved, let's say from vegetables to insects, that is worms, to fish, bird, animals, human being, as it gets evolved, it is accumulating, amassing, gathering more and more samskaras. And as these samskaras need an appropriate body or a medium or a form to exhaust and experience those samskaras, it takes the next higher or a next complex forms. And that is how it keeps on happening till the first human form. In the first human form, evolution is whole, full, complete. No further expansion. And then you go on to reincarnation. So let's read. In the first human form, not only is evolution complete, but all the three bodies, the gross is already there, gross we know, but along with the evolution of gross form, simultaneously, unconsciously, unbeknown to us, our subtle body and the mental body also keeps on evolving and developing. And in the first human form, all the three bodies, gross, subtle, mental, fully develop.
In the process of reincarnation, this soul retains its full consciousness and exchanges, that is, alternatingly experiences the diverse sanskaras in itself, and in the process of realization, this soul retains its full consciousness, but its sanskaras become fainter and fainter till they all disappear and only consciousness remains.
So when we'll see the chart, we will see it that the soul, the size of the soul, the circle, is the same throughout. Because nothing ever happens to the soul. Everything that is happening to the consciousness of the soul. Gradually, with the evolution of consciousness, the evolution becomes larger and bigger and bigger and bigger till the first human form, where it will be the largest. The samskaras are accumulating. In the human state of reincarnation, the human being spends sanskaras, also collects sanskaras. In the evolutionary process, it was only collecting. In the human stage, it is collecting and spending, collecting and spending, collecting and spending. In the involutionary stage, that means path to realization.
Reincarnation also it is.
Reincarnation what? Only, no, in reincarnation, it spends and accumulates, spends and accumulates. In the path to real, that means there is a winding process. And in the path to realization, which is the involutionary journey, which is the first plane onwards, it is spending. It is unwinding of the samskaras. So in the human form, while the winding has stopped, the ones which are already wound becomes plays a very pivotal role in the experience of the human being. Once there is this involutionary process, the path to realization, the first plane onwards, there is unwinding of samskaras. Many people mistake that I am spending samskaras in a human stage, which means I am unwinding. No, unwinding starts where the planes start. We'll come to that tomorrow, day after, whenever. Tomorrow, okay.
Up to the human form, the winding process of sanskaras becomes stronger and stronger in the process of evolution.
So that is done. It is becoming stronger and stronger.
In the human form, in the process of reincarnation, the winding retains its full strength, but in the process of realization, the sanskaras gradually unwind themselves till, in the God state, they are completely unwound.
Thus, there are no samskaras in the God state. Everything is unwound.
God, the oversoul, alone is real. Nothing exists but God. The different souls are in the oversoul and one with it. The processes of evolution, reincarnation, and realization are all necessary in order to enable the soul to gain self-consciousness.
So all this jamela is nothing but going from unconscious divinity to conscious divinity. We are always divine. We are always God, so to speak. One with God, or even we can say we are always God. God realization is nothing but the experiential knowledge that I was, am, and ever will remain God. That is the whole process. So basically, here Baba uses the words, what is that, self-consciousness? Okay. The process of evolution, reincarnation and realization are all necessary. Why? In order to enable the soul to gain self-consciousness. Self-consciousness means God consciousness.
In the process of winding, sanskaras become instrumental for the evolution of consciousness, though they also give sanskaric bindings. And in the process of unwinding, sanskaric attachments are annihilated, though the consciousness which has been gained is fully retained.
Once the consciousness is full, whole, complete in the first human form, there is no retrogressive consciousness. Consciousness cannot fall back. Now it is complete. And that consciousness remains till the fag end, full consciousness. The only exception to this rule of retrogression is on the fourth plane when the Kuber misuses his powers. Mahayogi misuses his powers.
In the process of winding of sanskaras, the soul goes through 7 stages of descent. And in the process of unwinding, the soul goes through 7 stages of ascent.
So actually human being is supposed to be most far, that it's a descent, like from gases to stone, metal, minerals, to vegetables, to worms, reptiles. Somewhere Baba uses worms, sometimes reptiles, sometimes insects, fish, bird, animal, human form. It is considered as a descent. And then you take a U-turn and go back, that is the ascent. The first plane, second plane, third plane, like that.
But the phenomena of descent as well as ascent are both illusory. The soul is everywhere and indivisibly infinite, and it does not move or descend or ascend.
All this game is being played in the game of illusion.
The souls of all men and women, of all nationalities, castes, and creeds are really one, and their experiences of good and evil, of fighting and helping, of waging wars and living in peace are all a part of illusion and delusion, because all these experiences are gained through bodies and minds which in themselves are nothing.
It's worthwhile to read this paragraph again. We talk about the East and the West. We talk about countries fighting with each other. We talk about people being murdered, massacred, stuff like that. Baba says, the souls of all men and women, of all nationalities, castes, and creed are really one. And their experiences of good and evil, of fighting and helping, of waging wars and living in peace are all a part of illusion and delusion, because all these experiences are gained through bodies and minds which in themselves are nothing. Earlier on, I had given an example that nothing ever happens to the soul. I tend to repeat, but I think it's worthwhile. We see the moon up in the sky, full moon, brilliant, gorgeous. There are various reflections of the moon in various water bodies. There is a lake here, there is a pond here, there is a tub here, there is a swimming pool here, there is a bucket here. So when the moon is high up in the sky, bright, majestic, you see the reflection of the moon in several water bodies. You shake the water body, anyone. What is first Brahm or illusion is there are many moons. There are so many moons, which is not a fact. There's only one moon. When you shake, what do you see? You see the moon moving. The moon is disturbed. The moon is under tension. It is agitated, whatever it may be. Is it a fact? No. It is only happening as an illusion. So Baba says in the same way, never the soul is touched, untouched, unscathed, unaffected, undisturbed, unagitated. Everything that is happening, which we call it an experience, is happening to the consciousness of the soul, to the mind, to the bodies, which themselves are illusory. They are themselves false. So therefore, really nothing is happening to the soul. And perhaps, I'm saying perhaps, that is the reason why Baba did not seem very perturbed or disturbed to that extent when the war was waging. He was there in the First World War. Of course, he was a child at that time. And the Second World War, which we assume from certain, what you can say, evidences, that Baba was the one who was conducting the Second World War. And that could be, that I don't know that part, that he conducted. I have not read it, but anyway. And that could be one of the reasons, because all these nations fighting, everything happening, is happening, basically the platform is political. And that could be one of the reasons why Baba had said, for all Baba lovers, not to take any active interest in politics. In fact, the first one to be taken out of politics was Ramju Abdullah. Ramju was a very, he was a freedom fighter. So Baba says you have to choose between this and coming to me. So obviously he chose, he very wisely, that he left his struggle for freedom and all that and joined Baba. Yes?
Jai Baba, when you talked about the soul, nothing affects the soul. It's only the consciousness of the individual soul. So the soul is basically the drop soul which has come out of the oversoul ocean. So we can also call that as the individual realized self, the capital self that we have read in Seven Realities.
No, not yet. See, the point is what you are asked. First of all, Baba says that individualized, finite, separative, drop soul is a Brahm. It itself is a Brahm, illusion. There is only Paramatma. There is no such thing as Atma. Atma in reality is Paramatma. So basically, the drop soul, what we call as a soul, is an apparent separation from the oversoul or Paramatma because of the existence of bubble of the mind, bubble of ignorance, bubble of illusion that is covering the drop soul and giving the experience to that drop soul that I am other than the oversoul. Giving the experience to that Atma that I am other than the Paramatma. Because the Paramatma not only is infinite and eternal, unbounded, it is also indivisible. Paramatma is indivisible. So the existence of a soul is apparent, what I am trying to say is. And the experience of I am God will come only when that bubble bursts. When the bubble bursts in the seventh plane, the bubble of ignorance, the bubble of separateness, the bubble of finitehood, the bubble of separate individuality, finite individuality, when that bursts, then the experience of the so-called drop soul is not I am a part of the ocean, but I am the ocean. So the individualized drop soul now becomes divinized I. It is the divine I or the spiritual I where he or she, there's no he and she over there. They can claim Aham Brahmasmi, Analhat.
But what I've understood is that the bubble you're talking about is the bubble of sanskaras, that is the whim,
Yes.
right? But
That is
after,
what?
excuse me, once again, but after God realization,
Yeah.
the drop soul, after it gets God realization, maintains its
Individuality.
Yes.
Correct, of course it does.
It is part of the Paramatma,
yes,
but
yes.
here
It
it,
maintains
does
it.
maintain that individuality.
Yes.
It is Paramatma.
So the soul, the self, starts with no sanskaras before the whim,
Absolutely.
and because of the whim, it starts off with the most fundamental sanskaric impression
Correct.
and goes through the whole process of winding sanskaras, spending sanskaras, and unwinding sanskaras, and then in the seventh plane, it attains nirvana or nirvikalpa samadhi.
Correct. This is what we had done in the very first chapter where somebody talked about ego, that it is bad, it is wrong. I said, no, ego is astitva, ego is existence, ego is the real thing. Ego cannot be annihilated. It is the mind that is to be annihilated. Ego can only be transformed from finite to the infinity.
Right.
So, yes, agreed.
Before the world of forms and duality came into existence,
Yes. Oh, yeah, please. Pass on the mic, please.
Hi, this is Sahadevan. I'm a first timer, so this question has something going against the.
No, this
Type
is
of
not the first time we had met before, no?
I'm telling for the subject.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Yeah. Correct.
what I want to ask is something not about what we were discussing again, going back to the miracle and siddhi. One among the last words of Jesus Christ was in Aramaic, it's like Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which means, oh God, why did you forsake me? So the question is connected with that. He has performed like making a dead alive, walked over ocean, like a lot of things. And also in the last days, he was asking his disciples to pray for him. Does that indicate that he had at least a temporary downfall of losing his spiritual, grace, whatever there? It has just gone away from him for some time?
Okay, if I understood your question correctly, the answer is no. Even Baba made so many of his disciples pray for Baba so as to have success in his universal spiritual work. When the avatar comes down on the human level, to some extent he behaves like an ordinary human being and gets himself bound by the ordinary laws which affect the human beings as well. I'm talking about the avatar, not the Sadguru. Sadguru doesn't get affected at all. Sadguru only acts or pretends, if you may. When somebody asks Baba, first of all you must understand that the avatar is always one and the same. You may call Zarathustra, Ramakrishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, now Meher Baba. Avatar is always one and the same because God is always one and the same. They are not different, number one. He's the only one who keeps coming over and over again because he was the first one to have made it all by himself and achieved godhood. When somebody asks Baba, how is it that Jesus got crucified or was crucified when he had all the powers at his command? He could do anything. Baba says, Jesus was not crucified. He got himself crucified. He saw to it that he gets himself crucified because he wanted to take upon himself the suffering of the world. And when you talk about the last word, oh God, why have thou forsaken me? It is basically showing, elsewhere, somewhere Baba said, when somebody asked about Jesus' temptation, he said, Jesus can never be tempted. We had done this in the last to last. He got himself tempted so that he can remove the entire samskars of temptation. In other words, if you are saying that did Jesus lose any of his spiritual powers or whatever? No. Divinity is divinity. Now, this may sound not acceptable to many. Baba himself said, Jesus never died on the cross. Baba said. Now, of course, there is a BBC a film and many books written that Jesus lived in India, that he went with two of his apostles, we call them Mandali, and he walked all through and went and settled somewhere in Kashmir. And then he lived up to a ripe old age and he died a natural death. And what is that place called? Harvan. Where it is his tomb is there. Baba had not only revealed, but even he had taken some of his mandali and pointed out the direction in which the tomb is there. Sorry?
Jesus stationed himself.
No, that is not the point. His point is, at the end of Jesus' life, he said all these things. Does it mean that his divinity got diminished?
I didn't mean that it is his end of life. Whatever you mentioned that he came to India could be true, but there was something like a sag where he was.
There cannot be a sag in divinity. When divinity is infinite, there is no sag. If at all we experience a sag, it is in our own measure. But there's no. If I understand your question correctly, there was no sag or there is no diminishing of his divinity. All the avatars always have infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite bliss. But Baba says that he only uses the knowledge part. He does not use his infinite power, because if God used infinite power, how can he become helpless? He does not use his infinite bliss, because if he uses the bliss, then how can he suffer? So in spite of the triune nature, infinite knowledge, power and bliss is there with all the avatar. I am talking about avatar. Baba said we only use infinite knowledge. And that too for the benefit of humanity.
But he had asked about performing miracles. For that, Jesus did station himself on the
I
fourth
don't think
plane.
that was the question.
He used the word. Yes.
See, there is one thing that
miracles he
Jesus
said.
himself knew, that using occult power or siddhi is not that
For
appreciable.
Jesus, there is no occult power.
No,
he is the powerhouse of all power.
Okay, so
He is the powerhouse. There is no occult is very low.
Okay, that's what I'm telling you. I'm a first time and I may not be using the
That's
right
okay.
word.
Please go
There
ahead.
is one more question there. Is when in a marriage, I think it's in Kanai or something, where there's a marriage conducted and there was no wine, and his mother demands, but he's getting, angry to his mother first, saying, I don't know the correct statement. something like, oh woman,
Are
what
you
is there?
talking about Jesus or Baba?
Jesus.
I
I'm-
don't know his life story in details.
Yeah,
But-
what I know is this
He is
way:
voice
in a
telling.
marriage where wine was over, and Jesus' mother knew that Jesus can perform something like this, so she asked him to convert water into wine, but he resists at first, telling the time has not come. That means he was clearly knowing that performing miracles is not something appreciable.
Correct.
So, if that scale is taken, he later performs several things.
No,
And-
see, Jesus is we had done that last time, the miracles of a Messiah. We had done it last time, where they do perform miracles. When they have to perform higher miracle, means stronger miracle, they voluntarily, for the time being, station themselves on the fourth plane of consciousness, because that is the plane of divine powers, and perform the miracles. So because Jesus had to perform miracles for whatever reason during his ministry, during his advent, he did that. So that is why he stationed himself on the fourth plane.
So, as per Baba, what is his spiritual status?
He is
highest
the
of the high.
avatar.
Av-
He is the highest of the high. There can be nobody higher than him. He is the Rasul-e-Khuda. He is the prophet. He is the son of God. He is the messenger of God.
He's the
He is
awakener.
whatever you name him. He is the highest.
Awakener
Can
now.
it be an evolution where probably was he at a different level at that time, 2000
If we
years
are
back?
talking about somebody highest, having infinite knowledge, power and bliss, it is the avatar and the perfect masters. Actually, even this is a little, even all the perfect ones also have infinite knowledge, power and bliss, but they have no authority to use those. So that is, we are not getting into details of it. If your question is what is the spiritual status of Jesus, the Christ, my answer would be he was the highest. There can be nobody higher than him. And he is the same one as Meher Baba in this advent. There can be nobody higher than him. I think we have anybody
Okay,
has
thank
any
you.
questions? Yeah.
I think what I've understood about the different avatars is that Jesus is considered as the Son of God, Muhammad is the messenger of God, and Meher Baba is our own innermost loving self, the capital self.
We call
That
him
is
the
one of
awakener.
the
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
the
yeah,
things.
yeah.
So I think each time the avatar comes, the ecosystem was